about the building has been approved. Yeah, that's all right.
Give this to Steve so he can ask something early. He has it in book.
I have it. Yeah. No, I just. Hey.
I want to welcome you to our March council meeting, and I'll ask that you please stand for a moment of silence. We typically take a moment of silence to remember our troops that are currently serving, those that have served, those that have made the ultimate sacrifice. But tonight I'd like to take a moment also to remember Matt Yarnell. His remains were identified. He was unfortunately killed in the terrorist attack on 9/11. He is the 1,640th individual identified from the World Trade Towers. So I want to also ask you to remember him and his family in tonight's moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Please join us in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I'll ask that the clerk please read the sunshine notice.
This meeting is held pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act. Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised in the January 11th, 2015 edition of the Trend and was provided to the Star-Ledger, Daily Record, and North Jersey Herald News on January 11, 2015. Adequate notice of this meeting was also posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board by the Acting Borough Clerk and provided those persons or entities requesting notification.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Here.
Councilman O'Doherty? Absent. Councilman Barish?
Here.
Councilman Cobell?
Here.
Councilwoman Senti?
Here.
And Councilman Giantonio?
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. I just want to mention that Councilman O'Doherty recently had back surgery and is not able to sit for any extended period of time. He sends his regrets as not being able to attend this night's meeting, but want to wish Dan a speedy recovery. Tonight, we in fact are going to discuss a restructuring and refinancing of current outstanding debt. And with us this evening we have Bob Beinfeld from Hawkins, Delafield and Woods. Bob is our bond counsel, and we're also joined by Mr. Lou May, who is our accountant and auditor. So once again, I think that if you can come forward, gentlemen, and you know, basically speak to what we're attempting to do this evening. I think they both work. Bob, if you don't mind just tapping the microphone, see if it's on. Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
It's really important.
Thank you, Mayor. The borough has some bond anticipation notes that are coming due in May that you have financed on a temporary basis a whole number of bond ordinances over the years, at least in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 bond ordinances. These notes are due on May 12th, and before the council this evening would be resolutions and paperwork to take those notes to permanent bonds for a fixed financing that would lock in the interest rates for the next, I think, about 15, 16 years, instead of rolling the notes every year and being subject to whatever the market is at that time. The notes by statute must be paid over the course of a certain number of years, so when you get to the end of that temporary financing, what is typically considered by municipalities is taking those notes to a permanent bonding and amortizing the debt over the life of the assets. And that's really what's before you this evening. We have drafts of 3 different resolutions. I'll explain a little bit more in detail in a bit. One of the resolutions would combine your utility debt, your water bonds, into one series of bonds, and the other resolution would combine ordinances for your general capital to one series of bonds. They're kind of very perfunctory resolutions, but they're required by the law, so we have to do something like that. And the third resolution would set forth all the details of the sale and the bonds, their maturity schedules, the notices that get published in the newspaper, authorize various offering documents that inform the public about who the borough is. That's the basis of those resolutions. I think that you've been also provided some financial information by Mr. May, and you can describe that better than I can, and that financial information would in effect be dropped into the resolution to conform it to the choice of the council as to what financial information to go forward with. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but maybe Lou, you want to? Happy.
But I think at the meeting we had with our acting CFO and myself and you folks, with the decisions that we have to finalize tonight for these resolutions are the actual amount that we want to bond, if any, in addition to our outstanding bans. And we've discussed that, and Mr. May has provided some run-out schedules based upon, not that we know what we're going to get because it goes to an open market.
Correct.
But based upon some recent sales, he's done some projections on what we can reasonably expect for a couple of different maturities and a couple of different amounts. And I think the decision we spoke about it at the workshop to some degree was what we wanted to, of the unissued bonds right now, how much we wanted to include in this bond issue. And I think having discussed it, I think what we want to do is put enough on, in addition to the bans, to cover the addition to the garage. Other than that, I don't know if we want to bond any more money at this time. So I don't know if we have any other large. I know we don't have any other large outstanding projects. And if we do over the next few years, we'll do it as bans, and 5 or 7 years from now, we'll revisit this process. If I understand everything you folks explained to us at the meeting. This hasn't been done since 2009, so it's not something we do frequently. Thank you.
Mr. May, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, normally I don't get involved in some of this activity, but since I knew your notes were coming due and you had no CFO, I kind of pushed along the process a little bit so we could get here. We came up with some maturities. You've seen them. I'm sorry, Calvin. You're probably the only one up on the dais that has not seen the 3 maturity schedules. Actually, there's 4. There's water maturity schedule for the $458,000. And then there were 3 maturity schedules, one for $7.8 million, which represented just a bonding of your outstanding bans at this point, one for $9.1 million, which should provide you enough cash flow to accommodate your construction needs for the DPW through the end of the year, and another one for $12.2 million, which would encompass basically all of your current outstanding notes plus all of your outstanding authorized, not issued. Given that scenario, we came up with some various things. The one, and I did speak to Anthony Inverso from Phoenix Advisors too. You pointed him to make sure that your EMER filings were, but it also has a thing in here about him being able to be a financial advisor. And we spoke about it and looked at the maturities, and he was saying he'd be, the two advantages to the smaller ones, the 7.8 and the 9.1 million, are that they they're bank qualified. Bank qualified generally gives you a slightly smaller interest rate. So he was leaning, he said from his perspective, he would be happy with either one of those two. And secondly, if you go to the 12.2 million, it drops down your maximum, not that we're going to the maximum, but the maximum useful life from 20 years to 18 years, because the two of the real big ones are shorter term. So what we did, we came up with that, and you'll see that it also shows you the difference between the 2015 debt service and the potential 2016 debt service. And it's a pretty significant jump from going from 15 to 16 in, if you did the whole 12.2 million, that'd be like a $7 million increase for debt service, which would be about 5 tax points, one shot.
700,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like 4.62, like close enough. And so that's the reason why he thought the 9.1 or the 7.8 would be fine. And I guess the 9.1 seems to be maybe the consensus to a certain extent, because it gives you the cash flow to meet your construction needs for the DPW building for 2015 also.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too, also, as we discussed, if we were to bond more cash, and bring in more cash than we use in the foreseeable future, we wouldn't make money on arbitrage, but we'd be subject to filing some arbitrage reports with the Internal Revenue, or that is true? Yeah, I thought it would.
Yeah. Yes, your rate of investment of the money is bound to be well below
the cost.
Yes.
So we'd be paying on
Yes.
money that we're not using, and have to file reports with our friends in Washington for arbitrage.
You're going to like this part. Neither you or Mr. Beinfeld, and I'll put in the record, Mr. May, are providing financial advice to the borough. You serve a unique role here. Mr. Beinfeld is bond counsel. He's very good at putting together the legalese to move forward on transactions. Mr. May is our accountant or an auditor. His role here is not, once again, to provide any financial projections other than doing some spreadsheets to allow us to understand what the transaction may translate into from a accounting perspective. He is not here to say what the 10-year is currently doing, where, in fact, he thinks that we should be bonding as far as a term that makes sense. So, once again, I think that just for clarification, for the record and for the public, you have those roles here that are very different and distinct than the financial advisor that we retain to put up financial information out in the public forum. I think that we've talked about this, and this may be going into that area, and you don't have to give an indication of how you feel about that, but my understanding is that we're actually trying to address some interest rate risk. The markets, have been flat for some extended period of time. That's my understanding. The Fed has indicated they may or may not raise rates. But having said that, when in fact you borrow short term, you are, from my perspective, my opinion, exposed to interest rate spikes and hikes. So if in fact we do this transaction, there may not be a financial benefit from a debt servicing perspective, but the interest rate risk could be mitigated by ultimately, once again going to a longer term financing in this current interest rate environment. And hopefully I phrased that correctly.
Sounded good to me.
Okay.
You will not only minimize your interest rate risk on this, you will end your interest rate risk. You will have fixed it in for the term.
And just one more, and the form of the bond resolution do allow, if the interest rates happen to go down, in 10 years you could do a refunding if that was a opportunity for you. Just it locks in your top,
Right.
basically. So.
Is that the earliest opportunity to refund, 10 years, or
Yeah, 10 years
is it according to the document? Okay.
Yes, 10 years is the first time that you can actually take away debt and replace it with folks who have it. Sometimes you can accommodate that a little bit in advance, even though you can't take the debt away. You can sometimes lock in savings a year or two in advance of that 10-year period, depending on the economics, what the interest rate environment is like.
And Bob, just from a mechanical perspective, we basically go out to open market and people bid on the bonds, and that's how the interest rate's determined. It's not a predetermined rate where you're, hypothetically financing a mortgage where you know what the rate is. So what the market bears at that particular point in time for a AA rated municipality is pretty much what will be driven at that point in time.
100% correct. It is a pure competitive process. This is actually done over the internet these days, and at a specified time, at a specified date, bids are received, and you see what the best rate is from the market environment. Very competitive. I'd expect you'd have a very, very competitive sale based on where you are, your demographics, your credit rating. I think you'll get some good interest.
And the finance chair, Mr. Copel, reported at their last meeting that ultimately there is a cost of underwriting, and that in fact may dictate why you want to do a larger offering than a smaller offering and doing multiple times, because that cost gets factored into the overall cost of, once again, refinancing the bonds, if I'm not mistaken.
It does get factored in there, but it's relatively minor in regards to total interest rate that you pay, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Also, exactly right, but there are some economies by putting together a few years' worth of capital projects that you wouldn't want to necessarily do that on an annual basis.
Right, we wouldn't want to do the garage next year and have another bond issue. So if we can do it now, we'd save whatever that fee is. That's what I was indicating at the workshop.
Yes, I think very fair.
And we talked at our last meeting, the current outstanding debt of the borough is about $14.3 million, give or take, going from memory, and we have $5 million that is authorized but not issued. And that's off the 12/31 audit. I think those numbers are pretty close, if I'm not mistaken. So this is actually, once again, restructuring, I think, a fair portion of the borough's current outstanding debt. What question do members of the council have for our auditor and our bond counsel?
So you may have said this, and I apologize if I missed it, but how much of the 12.2 have we actually expended versus what's, what was the phrase? Mayor, you just said it.
Authorized, unauthorized?
Authorized but not issued.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty close to 7.8, I think.
Okay.
Right, that's
7.820 basically is what has been borrowed for general capital. How much of that still resides in the accounts and has not been outlaid to contractors, I don't know that.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
And just once again, for the public's information, our current debt interest rates run from 2% up to 3.5%. the schedule is the correct one I'm looking at.
Okay.
It's the forecast.
Yeah. And I just should that all came from recent bond sales.
Okay.
So that's, otherwise, I just did that so you would have some budgetary yield for what you were contemplating.
Right, and these are targeted rates. Once again, you're not representing that this is what the market is going to provide. But I just want to let the public know that we're not going to, if we move forward with restructuring, that we're looking at, 7-8% interest rates. Okay.
I have a question for you. So if we overbond and go with the 12.2, are you paying interest on that full amount from the day it's bonded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Whoever lends you the money,
They want their money back.
they're not lending on an as-you-go basis. They're lending it all to you May 11th. So they're going to be wanting to be paid for their loan.
Okay,
Right.
as expected.
That's why we don't want to borrow any more than we're going to need for next year.
Any other questions for Mr. May or Mr. Beinfeld? Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us tonight.
We need to know what number they're picking.
Yes.
For the resolution.
If I may, Mayor.
It's always about numbers, isn't it, Lou?
About legalese as well, but so yes, so the body of paperwork you have, the legal paperwork, will, as I say, embrace and incorporate the choice of the council as to which amount so it is.
If I may then, so look at the number again. The 9.1 covers what we have outstanding, plus enough to cover the DPW garage.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
the cash flow for 2016.
Okay, and if I'm...
2015.
Okay, and from the other information that you had provided, it sounds like that was the preferred amount because it's bank qualified?
Yes.
So we get a little lower interest rate.
Okay.
And if we borrowed 12, we'd have $3 million that we're paying interest on, while
That we
it's
don't
sitting in the
get.
bank at earning somewhere between 0 and not much.
Right, so if I'm reading everybody right, 9.1 sounds like the number that you would recommend.
And
they would recommend.
And Phoenix, I think, also was much more comfortable with the 7 or the 9 as opposed to us borrowing the 12. And they are financial advisors.
Okay, so because the 9.1 is basically, once again, bank qualified, it appears, at least from the members that have spoken, that that's the direction we'll be going in. It is on the agenda tonight, but it's lower in the order because I want to give the public an opportunity to see if they have questions for Mayor and Council regarding the restructuring. So we're not going to take action at this particular moment, but hopefully by the end of the night we'll have an action on the resolution as presented, okay? Okay, any other questions for Mr. Beinfeld or Mr. May? Okay, gentlemen, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Thought we looked at the basis.
Ask the acting clerk to please read the treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report, we started out with cash on hand as of January 31st, 2015, in the amount of $1,700,109.84. Receipts for the month of February totaled $10,124,973.09, with disbursements amounting to $5,503,394.41. The new balance on hand, February 28, 2015, was $6,321,688.52.
Someone offer that, please.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barish?
Yes.
Councilman Clavell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio.
Yes.
Thank you. Next order of business is Mayor's report, and I just want to tell you that We, in fact, are moving forward with our Memorial Day plans for Memorial Day Parade. Memorial Day Parade has not been held in Kinnelon for a number of years. This year we'll be hosting the parade, so I know that the acting clerk is putting together, hopefully, a meeting that will help make that happen. I know that Mr. Freed has indicated we may, in fact, have a band participating as well. So as we move forward, we will keep you apprised.
Mile and a half, by the way.
Mile and a half?
From Pearl Miller to the Borough Hall.
So as we move forward with plans, we'll keep you apprised. I guess 2 weeks ago, Troop 277 was in a unique position that 8 Boy Scouts attained the rank of Eagle. And I think that is just pretty remarkable. It speaks well about Kinnelon, our parents, the parents of the Scouts, as well as the Scouts themselves. Unfortunately, they had a conflict. Some of them are wrestlers as well, and they had a wrestling event this evening, so they are not able to come and meet with Mayor and Council, but we have proclamations basically acknowledging their accomplishment. I guess the statistic reality of Boy Scouts is that less than 2% actually attain the rank of Eagle, so you can imagine to have 8 members of that troop attain the rank is just exceptional and remarkable, and we want to take the opportunity to meet with them and congratulate them personally. Last week at the work session, I presented to Council an article that was published in the Star Ledger on March 1st, and the headline read, "Pipeline can't use our right-of-way, PSE&G says." So I think that the Pilgrim Pipeline saga continues at this particular point in time. It's our understanding that the New Jersey Senate and Assembly have introduced companion bills to establish parity between Pilgrim and public utilities, so they would basically have to adhere to the same rules as public utilities at this particular point in time. I have not authorized, nor has the council indicated that they wanted me to authorize access to properties within Kinnelon for surveying for Pilgrim's efforts here, so I just want to make sure that you're aware that if in fact you have a representative from Pilgrim Pipeline approach you, and I'm talking to the homeowners, I don't believe that there is any reason, if you're not comfortable allowing them on your property, to do so. The pipeline is, and I do this in quotes because it's still a project in discussion at this phase, but it is slated, if moving forward, to run along Route 287. So homeowners haven't fear that it's going to be down Face Lakes Road or something. We're talking about along 287. At last month's council meeting, we also talked about the fact that there were some questions on whether or not open space is a good investment, and I provided the council with a case study from ANJAC, which is the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, and this study actually dealt with a number of properties, but interesting read, it really is a financial argument for open space preservation. So there actually is, based upon their report, a cost savings related to open space because you are not investing in infrastructure or expenses associated with new students coming into the district. So that report is available on a website, www.anjec.org. So if the public wants to take an opportunity to review it, you should do that accordingly. I want to take a moment to talk about our budget. We're late, and I have a concern about that. My responsibility as mayor and CEO is to ensure that reports are done in a timely basis. The Finance Committee is charged specifically with preparation and submission to the Council of an annual budget for its consideration and adoption. And I know that we do not currently have a CFO. but the pronouncement from the New Jersey Community of Affairs, Department of Community Affairs, was very specific that ultimately you are supposed to introduce at your first meeting following March 13th. So, I know our department heads have prepared budgets. I'm a little concerned because it's my understanding that the Finance Committee has not met yet, and there may be mitigating and certain reasons for that, but I'm concerned we have a best practice survey that ultimately we have to report to the state on an annual basis about our operations, and they take that very seriously because it does in fact get integrated into consideration on state aid. So we are going to move forward with a budget, but I wanted to let the public know that we in fact are late, and I'm not, once again, casting dispersions on any council members, as much to say we have an obligation to the public. It is a management tool. And we need to get this done. So we will be contacting the Department of Community Affairs with a timeline for when the budget will be ready, set to go. And this year there is a provision for a user-friendly disclosure. And once again, we don't have a CFO for this year's budget. It is going to be reported at time of adoption, not introduction. Next year, that user-friendly budget needs to be published and it's accessible to the public at time of introduction. So once again, there are times that budgets get delayed for various reasons. I'll say it again, we do not currently have a full-time CFO. We have acting CFO. But once again, at the best case scenario, we will be introducing in April and adopting in May, and that puts us about 30 days behind where we should be as far as approval of the budget. So once again, we're going to be working together, Mayor and Council, to strike a budget this year that is, I think, fair, reasonable, and achieves the objective of providing for services with hopefully dollars being spent in a very prudent fashion as we have over the last decades. So once again, we will keep you apprised of the budget development. That's the end of my report, so now we'll move on to Recreation. Councilman Frieda.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation, the winter sports programs are over. The March Madness tournament was a great hit in Kinnelon with all the different teams representing colleges in the area. What I think was most ironic was Michigan State ended up being the most winning team in our all the divisions, and it's a green team, so it's a good news for the Kinnelon Green. Wrestling, a very successful season this year. The season concluded with 15 district medals, 4 regional medals, and an invitation to the states. Now, with that being said, we had 2 wrestlers in Kinnelon compete in the USA New Jersey State Wrestling Finalist Tournament in Trenton. Evan Magulian, with his dad Chuck, went down to the Sun Center in Trenton, and they watched Evan in one day wrestle 7 matches, and he placed 6th overall in the state of New Jersey at 70 pounds, all 70 pounds of them. We also had on Sunday Dan Jones and his dad, and I know his mom went as well. I saw her Pathmark the night before the event. They also went to Trenton. Dan wrestled 5 matches and placed 3rd overall in the state of New Jersey at a whopping 55 pounds. So I just think that's amazing that those 2 wrestlers, we do have one of the high school wrestling coaches on our rec commission, so I know he knows about it, so he's all excited for these kids, I guess in the next 3 or 4 years to be up in the high school wrestling. So congratulations to them and their family, because wrestling is a very difficult sport. Boys and girls lacrosse, they've begun practice. I think they have a game tomorrow, or no, Saturday in the snow, so we don't think that'll be happening. But they've been practicing at FDU on their turf field in Florham Park. We've been paying $200 an hour for the use of that turf field. And now moving forward, the County of Morris has 4 turf fields, which are new. and they're ready to go, and their price is a little bit lower at $50 an hour for a rental there. So we're going to start using some of that turf field. But it's very difficult at times. I know the boys lacrosse got home at 9:30 the other night from Florham Park, so it's the time we're getting is not that good for the kids. Baseball and softball, they're registered right now as we speak. Most numbers are status quo. The baseball number is down about 17% this year, but the lacrosse number's up about 15%. So lacrosse is winning. They're taking some of the baseball guys. So it's the never-ending battle of baseball versus lacrosse in Kinnelon. So besides that, we are working on the scoreboard at KRP. It's up right now. The polls are up, and we're working on some quotes to get the electric brought out to the sign and have the sign working. Melanie, as you know, our rec director, attended the New Jersey Parks Recreation Association conference. She's learned about a lot of different, she attended a lot of different classes, educational classes. She learned about some different field trips, equipment, and all good stuff to help our department. So, again, I think Melanie's about 5 months into her job here, and I think she's doing a fantastic job. The Rec Commission has I think went over Cliff Giantonio's ordinance for, what are we calling it, Cliff?
Code of conduct.
Code of conduct, I'm sorry. Code of conduct, and there should be, Cliff will be talking about that later, so they went over and reviewed that last night. Besides that, the AEDs, the defibrillators that we have at all of our ball fields, they were taken in by Melanie the other day. All batteries are changed and checked, so all of our AEDs work at all of our facilities. And lastly is our lacrosse equipment. A lot of it's getting old and we're not using it anymore. Most lacrosse players have their own equipment. So we're working with one of our vendors, and we will probably be donating a lot of our used lacrosse equipment, believe it or not, to a low-income area in Hawaii. So although I offered to bring it to them, the vendor most likely is going to ship it to them at his cost, and it's our donation to a team in Hawaii. So they'll even get some old jerseys that we have that say Kinnelon on it. So maybe it'll be the Kinnelonans or something in Hawaii. But we're excited about that donation. So with that being said, that is the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. Now moving on to Public Works and Utilities. Councilman O'Doherty, as I reported earlier, is not with us this evening. I understand that Councilman Barish has a report on behalf of the DPW and Utilities Committee.
Yeah, just briefly on behalf of Dan, the contract was received on our new DPW garage. I know that his original time schedule planned for March 2nd pre-construction meeting. Obviously, with him being out of commission with his back, that's going to be off a few weeks. But other than that, the fact that he's just starting 30 days behind, I think, is pretty extraordinary based on the scope of the project. He usually reports on the weather, I think, and it's usually pretty hard. So I'm sure our DPW staff was gearing up today, and I'm sure this is going to cost us some money for rock salt, etc. So other than that, that's all we had for Public Works.
I just want to once again inform the public that we did discuss at our work session a recent report of cloudy water from Butler. And once again, I think that we were informed that there was an automatic valve that had a problem down at the Butler water processing plant. DEP was involved with Butler to once again make a determination on ultimately what the response should be. We basically relied on Butler for once again, disclosure related to that. We're dependent upon them because they're the supplier. Once, in fact, we had clear direction, we provided information through our OEM site, our Facebook site, our web page here in Kinnelon, and we also put out a Nixle alert, and we also did hand stuffing of mailboxes with notices. So, we were very aware of the fact that last time there was a problem at the Butler water processing plant. We in fact came up short from our perspective on what we were notified, and I think that from at least a coordination perspective, this worked better. Okay? Once again, we have a reliance on them to take the lead because it's their plant, and once again, we were informed that there was never a public safety issue regarding the water quality. So once again, I know that residents, as always, should be informed, and we're concerned, but I don't know what else we could have done, and we did leave the don't boil your water alert up on the marquee a little longer than I would like, but I think it was up there for a good 7 to 10 days or thereabouts.
Technology issues.
And we have had a couple water breaks within the municipality, and it was a couple days later that we had one that again was addressed. But I just want to tell the public that we appreciate your input. There are things that we should be doing differently or better regarding that reporting element. I'd like to hear from you, and once again, I just wanted to let you know we did do a post-mortem on the notification provision for that event. So unless somebody else has anything for utilities or public works, we'll now move on to public safety and technology. Councilman Barish.
Thank you. Hopefully a brief report tonight. From Chief Schwartz, he's proud to report in the news this week there's a press release from the Morris County prosecutor that Kinnelon had an officer that worked in conjunction with them and many other towns in the area. They cracked a drug trafficking case, and they seized 360 pounds of marijuana with a street value of about $1 million, as well as about $9,000 cash and some weapons. So congratulations to the officer that was involved with that, and I think they're keeping his name out of the press. The fire company had to report that Engine 22 refurbishment is continuing and is expected, I think, in the next 30 to 45 days, they said. They should be joining us at the next workshop meeting to discuss preliminary recommendations on a refurbishment or replacement of the Tanker 33, or 3,500-gallon tanker that's kept in Smoke Rise. Just for note for the public, Smoke Rise has no hydrants at all. The borough proper, there's a lot of streets that are without hydrants as well, where we use fire ponds. The fire company uses fire ponds and or standpipes into the lakes and ponds. And certain areas of Faison Lakes, as the residents know over there, have water pressure issues at times. So the tanker is a critical piece of the fire company. A reminder that the Pancake Breakfast is Palm Sunday, March 29th, from 7 a.m. to noon. They'll be flapping jacks and cooking up sausage. And a reminder, we changed our clocks, so remember to change your batteries and detectors. That goes for CO detectors as well as smoke alarms. We did have a number of calls lately. As I'm a firefighter since 1999 in Kinnelon, we've been on many low batteries recently, so you can always tell when that time is coming around to change the batteries. And it does get a little tough getting up at 1:30 in the morning to find out we had a little chirp going on with the detector, so please do take the time to look at that. That's it for public safety. Technology, as you mentioned about the marquee, some of the issues we had were connection issues with the network, so it's actually a wireless connection coming from the building out to the marquees. And while the marquee continues to go around through its messages, we couldn't actually talk to it a number of those times. So people observed there was a time that it was out black. There was not a power issue, it was a software issue. And the fact that it was stuck doing the boil water was because we couldn't communicate with it to tell it to stop putting that out there. So you'll still see continued refinements on that. We're going to test it with some different colors. We were talking about a gold or a white possibly to maybe pare down the 42nd Street nature, some people have called it, or the Vegas Strip. So we're looking for feedback on that. Feel free to call the borough clerk and feed that back while we test the different colors. We're trying some different fade or dissolve techniques, transitions, to try to reduce the distractions that some people have reported. And we're also rescheduling the marquee to go dark between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. So you'll see some changes with that. Infrastructure, I think we're adding tonight to, I'm not sure if it's a consent agenda, an item P to add some equipment for our borough and police department servers, email servers, file servers, etc. That'll be done under state contract. And then there's a small portion, I think it's about $8,000, $9,000, that goes to labor on that, and that was under the bid threshold. So I think we have a pretty good consensus on the council as far as that. If there's questions, I gave Mr. DeMaio the list of specific expenses and whatnot, so we can determine what to do with that.
I don't see it on here, though.
No,
It went to Mark.
It'll be worded by the council,
Okay.
by
Attorney?
Borough Council Attorney,
Good.
when we get to that particular point.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess at that point, we may need to determine whether that goes lease or does it get bonded, or how we handle that in the budget, so,
The term, sure.
yeah, when we get to that. On the public access television I've talked about in the past, weather dependent, tomorrow, I have an appointment with the school at about 2:30 to discuss the use of the public access channel for our use to disseminate more information. So, it just goes to the multi-pronged way to use, newspaper, Facebook, social media, Nixle, et cetera, to keep things open, transparent, and two-way. Also, at the workshop meeting for next month, I have a social media policy prepared. I've gone back and forth with our council, and using some best practices from the League of Municipalities. And I think Wyckoff was one of the templates that's out there, and there's another one from Metuchen. So I kind of combined a number of these and tried not to leave anything out, so we can discuss that at the next meeting and then decide how to adopt that and where that gets adopted. That should just obviously won't make us immune to any problems, but at least it'll set the ground rules for what we can keep on there or allow people to post. That's it on technology. Did you want to put planning board here as well? I just have a quick note on that.
Sure.
Quick note from the planning board, they're expecting to host a public meeting in May to review the master plan. They have a board meeting in April that will be to review that, and the public portion, public comment, will be in May. And lastly, I just had a note that last night I attended a town hall meeting with our assemblyman from the 26th Legislative District, Jay Weber, held in Rockaway. And it was attended by about 25, 30 people. The main subjects that were discussed there, and just for our residents' edification, the bulk of the complaints, I think, from people was the road conditions in New Jersey. 287, Route 80, Route 23, Route 46 were all discussed. The ongoing construction at that 287-80 intersection, the cost overruns, the discussion of the Highway Trust Fund running out of money, and the fact that the amount of taxes it's taking in from gas taxes is just enough to pay the debt service right now. So, where that's going to go was a big discussion. So he was looking for feedback and input from the constituents, which includes us here in Kinnelon. So reach out to his office if you have any comments on that. There's also discussion on special education. It wasn't something that I was familiar with, but there was another Kinnelon resident there that spoke to Jay Weber about that, and apparently they want to mainstream a lot of these special ed, which includes 40-year-olds, for instance, that might be operating at the level of an 8-year-old. So there was some assembly bills that are moving through possibly this week or next week that were of concern. And the last thing that I found very interesting was comments on educational funding and the funding formula in New Jersey. And Jay Weber put up a slide from a presentation he had just done for the public in Patterson, whereby Asbury Park was getting $25,000 per student in state aid. They were adding another $5,000 of local educational dollars for a total of $30,000 spent per student. For poor grades was kind of the way he put it. That wasn't on the chart, but he described it as such. Compared to Kinnelon, for instance, which gets $688 per student state aid, and then we spend about $18,000 a student for ours, with a much higher accomplishment rate, if you will. What he described was that we in Kinnelon pay $1, or we receive $1 for every $37 that go to some of these other districts that get the redistribution of the wealth. There was an interesting comment from the Rockaway mayor and a member of the Board of Ed saying that their analysis was that they're getting about 12% state aid versus their school budget. And they had found that Long Valley, and I think Long Valley was the first one, was 25% state aid. Started asking questions as to why they were different. Given the explanation that Rockaway Mall made them imperceptibly richer, as far as the formula goes, they went on to analyze themselves against Parsippany, which had similar ratables, certainly unlike Kinnelon. And Parsippany also was 25%, strangely. They were able to secure a meeting with the commissioner of the Board of Ed at the state, went down with Senator Panaccio, and essentially laid this all out and said why the discrepancies, and were given the answer that we really don't know. They could not explain why the funding formula is the way it was. Apparently this was established in 2008. I asked my sister Jessica Barish, who's on the Board of Ed, what she knew about the percentages. She's going to look into this, but as far as she knew off the top of her head, we're about 2% in Kinnelon state aid. So it is something that I don't know where it falls in the council here, but it's something that I may recommend at the workshop that we discuss with our assemblymen, our senators, and whatnot, and look into. There's nothing that we can do according to Jay Weber at this point. It is a state legislature item, but certainly the inequities cost us here dollar for dollar. So that was. I apologize for being long-winded there, but it was important information I wanted to bring back to the residents. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Adam. Now moving on to Finance, Councilman Cobell.
Thank you. As you heard our earlier discussion, we're going to be working tonight. I think there'll be further discussion, and we hopefully can take action on refinancing our bonds this evening. With regard to our budget, when we looked at what had been input into our system, the budget requests, our former CFO, I shouldn't say did or didn't, but the information was not complete enough for us to go forward with a meeting on the budget. I asked Mr. May if he would look at that, and he has been gracious enough to do that and is getting the information into our system. In fact, I think he finished it last week or got it to a point where we can have a meeting with the Finance Committee and have something to work with as far as putting a budget together. And so that'll be scheduled as soon as members of the Finance Committee can get together next week. Other than that, I have one item for closed session, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Steve. Now moving on to coordinating in open space. Councilwoman Svensson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Library Board of Trustees met last night, and they have just a couple of new programs that they're going to introduce to the community. One is a maker space program, which is a place where people can come together to build their own things and to share ideas. If you're an avid thinker, enjoy making or repairing things on your own and want to learn to use, say, a 3D printer, then Makerspace program is for you. Watch the library's website for further details on that. Additionally, the Kinnelon Children's Library, along with Kinnelon Conserves, will be hosting a Kinnelon Earth Day Fair on Saturday, April 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be many activities on the agenda, including solar and wind energy workshops, plant/seed exchange, and much more. The Greening Kinnelon Challenge is being sponsored by the Rotary Club and is open to all Kinnelon residents. Be sure to go to the library website for more details. The Historical Commission, Lacole will have their annual garage sale to be held in June, and their Pathways of History tour will be held on October 10th and 11th this year. The Environmental Commission will meet the last Thursday of this month, which is next Thursday, and they will welcome their 2 new members and interview a 3rd candidate for the commission, which I will bring back at the next workshop to the Mayor and Council for their consideration. The Open Space Advisory Committee will be moving forward with a New Jersey DEP Green Acres Recreational Trail Grant for submission on April 30th. This request would not exceed $10,000 and is a matching grant. If awarded, the proposed trail to be built would start from the back of the municipal fields here and connect up to Silas Condick Park. And then finally, the Board of Education. The Borough Coordinating Committee met with the Board of Ed and Master Engineering. They have begun to submit the various permits necessary for the artificial turf project to move forward and anticipate a completion date of September 1st, 2015. They also want to move forward with the field use agreement. I still have two issues that I feel should be included in this agreement before any ordinances are introduced for either leasing or for the bonding to pay for the project. One is the list of teams that would be allowed to play on this field, specifically rectangle sports. And I feel that this is important because both Board of Ed Recreation and the Borough Recreation Departments will be charging an extra fee that will be used to put into a kitty for the replacement of the carpet, the eventual carpet of this turf field. And if not all the rectangle recreation sports would be allowed to use the field, then I think the parents that are paying those fees should know this. Additionally, I feel that a statement or a clause of some sort should be included that specifically identifies what the borough's recourse would be should the Board of Ed renege on any part of the shared use of this field agreement. This has happened in the past with the turf, with the field track, and also with the fitness room over at the high school. So we would like to know what the recourse for the borough would be if we get kicked off the field because the Board of Ed is going to be using it instead. I think that's only fair to the residents and definitely to the recreation programs. Also at the February Board of Ed meeting, I presented them with an article from the New Jersey Education Association's February issue. It was an article all about artificial turf that strongly suggested that school districts hold off on installing turf until further testing could be completed on the product. It also stated that maintenance costs were nothing but a myth. That was a quote from the article. Once the field use agreement has been finalized and the weather improves, I will begin the process of planning another turf information meeting for the general public. I will be reaching out to other artificial turf manufacturers, not just one this time, and also looking for entities within the health industry in order to provide the public with a fair and balanced presentation. Thank you, Mayor. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Carol. Now moving on to Personnel and Ordinance, Councilman Giantonio.
Thank you, Mayor. The Personnel Committee, less Councilman O'Doherty, met with our labor attorney just this morning on the ongoing negotiations with the Town Hall Personnel Union. We're trying to finalize that contract. As I've mentioned in the past, every time we meet, we whittle away at a few more issues, and I think we are getting closer. I know that I say that every meeting, but it's true. But we met just the Personnel Committee and our labor attorney today to try and come up with our with our position to present at our next meeting with the union. I'll share those specific details enclosed. We are trying to set up a meeting with the union representatives for the next week to 10 days so we can give them our proposals and again try and move this whole contract forward. As for the tree ordinance, the ordinance committee will be hopefully meeting this coming Monday to go over the rough draft that we have so far and try and tweak it and see if we can get it closer to a final form and ultimately get that enacted sooner rather than later. And finally, as Councilman Frieda mentioned before, I met with the Rec Commission last night and we were finally able to agree to a form of the Recreation Code of Conduct. And I say recreation code of conduct because it's for the whole rec department. It's not just sporting activities. Any activities that the rec department will sponsor, such as trips to plays and outings and things like that, will be covered by this code of conduct. I commend the rec commission. Every member gave it a lot of thought, and just about all of them had suggestions or recommendations for input into the code, and I think we've really got a very good product. I'll be referring that to the full council for next month's workshop, so we can go over it, see if there are any suggestions that the council may have, and then hopefully we can move forward with approving that. And that is my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Cliff. Now, moving on to the next agenda item is hearing from the public. Anyone that wishes to address Mayor and Council this evening, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and welcome.
I'm Joe Sipigora from 4 Dogwood Trail. I mostly have questions and maybe a request for clarification. The first is the marquees. Are they rented or owned?
They're owned by the borough.
Okay.
During Hurricane Sandy, one of the marquees was damaged, so it was subject to FEMA dollars for reimbursement. But no, they were purchased with capital dollars. The library owns the one, if you're looking outwards to the right, and we own the one to the left. And I tell people that the library is a separate autonomous body, and sometimes, that doesn't translate to anything other than it's Borough of Kinnelon. So
I'm glad you're
but
still...
they're owned, okay?
I'm glad you're still testing colors. That green, as much as I love what green represents, I find it's not as readable. So
That's been about the
continue
feedback we've
testing.
gotten.
Thank you. And the second question, a clarification. Did I hear that you're looking for September 1st, 2015 installation of the church?
Completion.
To have it completed by that time?
That's what they hope for.
And so that's about 5 months. And when would there be some kind of public information about the health and the ramifications of everything, before or after they have a contract?
I'm working on putting together the meeting as we speak, getting entities together and choosing a date, so...
And there would be public hearing?
They hope to start construction immediately after graduation in June.
So they'll start construction, then I thought I heard something about the public being informed about...
Yes, a public information meeting.
After the construction starts?
No, it would be before.
Before. So that'd be before June.
Yes, I'm hoping for April or May.
Not much time left.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I had tried to set one up. There was one set up originally on December 1st. And unfortunately, the speaker couldn't make it. He had been in a car accident.
Yeah.
He was all right, but he was in a car accident.
Oh, I remember that.
So
Yeah,
with
that's good.
with the weather, et cetera, and what we've had in February and March, it didn't seem right to bring the public out in that weather and chance another meeting at that time.
Yeah. And the third is, I was a little distressed when I saw some photos of professionals installing these crumb rubber fields. They all had respirators on. They all had respirators. And I'm saying, well, why would they need respirators if it's okay to breathe it all in? Now, granted, they may do this job 8-10 hours a day, probably not every day of, every work day, because I don't think that many fields are being installed that they're continuously working on a field doing this. But children over a period of years will also have a lot of hours of contact, and they're breathing it in. They're not just there, they're eating it, bringing it home, they don't wash their hands before they eat, things like that. So I find that interesting that these adults are protecting themselves, but I'm wondering how much we're protecting the children.
Have you, before you go, just to comment on your last comment. You can sit if you want.
Sure.
Have you done any research online into studies that have been done about
Quite a bit.
inhaling?
Quite a bit.
And you've seen there have been a number of studies that have found, they call it de minimis, but basically no impact of breathing in the rubber fibers.
Yeah.
There's no danger of cancer, anything like that. You've seen all that?
I've seen all of those, and I've seen the ones that actually challenge it, and I also
Right.
am old enough to remember many industries who said their product was not dangerous, including the tobacco, who for decades denied any danger, and we're in alliance with government officials who helped them get away with it for a long time.
Right.
And that's not the only product that has been
Right.
exposed to the public for much longer than it should have been, when there was enough suspicion for them to exercise precaution. And so I'm concerned about that.
Have you read the EPA report?
Which one?
There was one main
And
report.
actually, right now, I don't have a whole lot of respect for the EPA. Their reputation has been up. I mean, it's really been challenged a lot lately. They've been bought. Many of them have been bought. Or they have a worldview that might be different from mine.
Understood.
So
I would recommend reading the report.
I'm
whether you
as
believe it or not.
informed as any citizen
Right.
can become.
'Cause
And
I've done a good deal of research, and I'll be honest with you, I've come across no reports that say
yeah.
it either causes cancer or it causes respiratory problems. I would recommend
Yeah.
Penn State has a whole...
There's plenty out there.
Can I finish my thought, please?
Yeah, I'm no expert.
I understand.
I'm not
and
an
that's why
expert, and I'm not putting myself...
all I'm doing is recommending.
Yeah.
Penn State has a whole department that all they do is study
Yeah.
turf. It's a great resource. If you go on there, they have literally dozens of articles.
I'm also very aware of how aligned the government and military and businesses are, how well aligned they are with research at universities. And I know where a lot of universities get their support and need money to keep going, and lots of times they turn out the kind of research that their customers are looking for. So I'm not saying everybody's evil or wrong. I'm just saying that I'm old enough to be a little doubtful at times and be a little suspicious and not take everything as I did. I did at one time. I trusted a whole lot of people out there, and I realized you can't trust that easily. And if there's doubt, you should proceed carefully.
Agreed.
Okay?
I just want to clarify before you step away from the microphone, Joe. I think that the public, and listen, we've been talking about turf now, I think, for a number of meetings, a number of hours. Board of Education is the applicant.
I know.
The Board of Education, Kinnelon Board of Education, owns the field next door. What the council, majority of council is committed to is reimbursing them for costs associated with the application.
I understand.
And we have not made a decision about funding for it, okay? But I think the Board of Education is operating under that auspice that the council will be supportive of funding for turf when, in fact, the Board of Education secures bids. But I think the public comes before us, and, you know, sometimes they ask us questions that are relevant, but really, just I want to be clear about it. The Board of Education is autonomous.
I'm aware of
We're working together. We're still one municipality. Tax dollars that come into the borough don't say Board of Education, and municipality, they say Borough of Kinnelon. But just to clarify that, okay?
Yes.
So I think that
well
whatever
aware of that.
information the public can bring forward, I think is always welcome, and thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, maybe when the time comes that when we're asked about funding, we can have a voice. And I also know that this kind of thing operates in the free market, too. It's amazing what people can get away with in a free market to protect freedom, right? Thank you.
Just a reminder, the next Board of Ed meeting is next Thursday at 8 at the Kinnelon High School.
Hi. I'm Phyllis Boudreau-Kellner. I live in 15 Water's Edge in Faison Lakes. I just want to thank you guys all for really being committed to our community, because I really appreciate that. I wanted to talk to Adam about the signs, and one of the things that I did Google was digital signs and distraction, and one of the things, I mean, a lot of information came up about increase in accidents. that are that occur once a digital sign is put in an intersection or an entrance or exit area. So I thought that was really interesting that we have 3 signs near an exit where young adults are learning to drive. So instead of thinking about creating controversy over my opinion that they shouldn't exist, I thought we should talk about creating a better safe environment with them. So one of the ideas that I thought we should think about is creating the signs to be stationary at certain times of the day when kids are coming and going out of that entrance and exit, so that drivers are not distracted and easily trying. Most of the friends that I have can't read them anyway. I just want everybody to know that. By the time they get to the second word, it's gone. So making them more stationary in a visible way, I think, is really important. By the way, I would really love to volunteer my time. I am an artist. I live by visual means. I have a lot of color sense, and I really would like to contribute to that aspect of what's going on in our community, the aesthetic values of our community. And I think that, on that note, an ordinance has to be drawn up about these signs, because I think that if we don't initiate an overall perspective on how we want that to play out, that Kinnelon Road, the church could have one, all of a sudden, you know, the restaurant can have one, and all of a sudden it will look like a Las Vegas throughway. So, would you consider that? Can I help?
We're working on one currently, a sign ordinance.
Okay, cool.
The sign ordinance is falling under Councilman Giantonia.
Understood.
Who's working with the planning board, just to be clear on what kind of signs can be where.
Okay, but
But you're talking about...
I would like to help. It sounded like you have an oversight on how the signs function and the color coordination and things like that, the tonality of them, and...
Certainly with the council input, and certainly we're looking for resident input too, so I'd be glad to talk to you about it. And
Good.
I think your points about some more stationary, when they were first installed, they defaulted to a 3-second delay.
Okay.
We've extended that out to 4, to 5. We tried 6 for a few hours, so, you know, we're still experimenting with different times, like I said, with different colors, different fonts. I don't know if you'd seen the blue that we had for Facebook. You know, we had feedback that wasn't well seen. You know,
The pink is just way out of control. You can see it for a mile away.
Exactly.
But, you know, I would love to help
Absolutely.
that.
Let's talk afterwards.
Okay, great.
I appreciate that. Just once again, we have a library that is very enthusiastic about things. I don't know if that's Tinkerbell on the sign out there or what that is.
Oh, they had Annie running for a while.
I think we've got to be coordinated here, and I think that if we're going to meet, it should be for both signs, so we're just not addressing the issue from a single perspective.
And the high school. I mean, there should be some awareness that you have 3 highly demanding visual signs suddenly out of nowhere, and young adults are coming and going out of this exact entrance and exit that we're placing these signs. To me, it's insane. But on that note, since we've engaged in the current insanity of the world, we're going with it. So I would love to help control it.
That's a great point that you bring up on safety. I hadn't really thought about that. But we do have one of our officers is a certified traffic expert. And I wonder if
he's aware of it.
Cifelli has some input on that, or can get some information on that
Google
from
it.
that perspective.
You can Google it. It's
Well,
there.
I mean, from professionally, from the police, from his perspective, what resources the police have into looking into that. That would be a great source of information. Our traffic officer.
Cool.
Thank you.
Trees. I don't want to pigeonhole myself, but,
I sent you an email. Did you get it?
No.
That's our email system. I apologize. I sent you actually, I think 2.
Really?
Over the last 2 weeks, trying to set up a meeting where you and I can get together to...
Okay, would love it.
So
I'll come on Monday?
Yes, 6:30.
Okay.
Here.
Upstairs. Great.
Upstairs, yeah.
Okay, because I discovered things about our farming permits and stuff that exist that evidently nobody knew about.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about it.
Okay,
Mhm.
good. And then there was one more thing.
The sign over at Stony Brook, I don't know if that's what you wanted to talk about, but
No.
it looks to me like it was turned down. What do you think?
Yes, it was.
I mean, it's still very bright color-wise, but
It is.
It
I
looks
mean,
like
for
it's been
residents, it
dimmed,
still might
at
be
least,
a
yeah.
little out of control. No, I think, within the fact that I am completely opposed to this, that they can be really much more managed. And I cannot remember the third thing, but I'll come back up here if I remember. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Hello. Avery Hart, 5 Cherry Tree Lane. I'm dismayed to learn that plans are afoot when the community has spoken through the town survey so strongly against the idea of putting a big piece of plastic over our beautiful aquifer that we are the stewards of. We live in a county and a town that is so blessed to have underneath our feet one of the purest aquifers in the state of New Jersey, and perhaps even in the Northeast. The water that millions of people rely on that comes from our area and flows into other areas of New Jersey is drinking water for 5-6 million people in Hoboken and other areas, as well as the water that we pull up from our wells. We've done such a good job here in Kinnelon, keeping Kinnelon in a pretty, I can't say a natural state. We live here, but we live in harmony with nature pretty well. We have people who move here specifically because of the beauty of our town. So the idea of putting a big piece of plastic that's made with benzene and lead, of which, by the way, there is no safe level of lead. There's just no safe level of lead. And yet, these artificial, very expensive artificial fields are made of lead. They're made of lead and benzene and a whole list, arsenic. There's a whole list of toxic chemicals. This has been, I'm definitely will prepare a package to give to you all, because perhaps we're reading the wrong information. When I started researching this subject a couple of years ago, I noticed there was a lot of really positive information about turf, but it's all done by the turf companies. There's so much out there. I don't know, USA Today had an article that was sent to me by Randy Charles that was just a really good overview of the whole issue. So may I have your permission to send you all some of these articles, to send you a packet?
Sure, please.
And in the hope that you would actually read it. I provided one to the Board of Ed members, and it was really sad for me because the ones who are like turf, 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 they just took it. They looked at me and they put it down in a way I knew they weren't even going to read it. So I hope I can have your commitment to it, that you would read such a thing. And Carol, I would ask you also to invite back some of the doctors that we brought here, particularly Dr. Ted Falk of 48 Denise Drive, and Matt Klein, who lives in Smoke Rise. I don't know the number of his house. He's on Mountain Avenue. And see if we can get them and some of their other colleagues in the medical field to do this. Like the CDC just put turf as one of the 7 causes of childhood asthma. Come on. It's right there on the site. So anyway, I guess my feelings about this are well known. But it isn't just my feelings. I wouldn't have these feelings if the turf didn't cause toxic runoff into our beautiful aquifer, and if our town weren't capable of maintaining beautifully natural green fields. I'm sure we have everything we need to have natural green fields that can be maintained by human beings without toxic chemicals on them. The whole state of Connecticut does not allow pesticides on their sports fields, and you know, that's been since 2010, and they seem to be doing just fine up there. And we have people, I think Liz Koch has mentioned in the past, there's people who are willing to come to our town to give a tutorial on how we can have grass, natural grass with thick roots that can take lots of play, and how organic fields can be put there, which will not cost millions of dollars. So I'd like to say that. And also, Carol, thank you for mentioning the Earth Day Fair, but I hope you will all attend. I encourage you to invite your neighbors, and we hope to have a wonderful fair. We're so happy that the library has, we're going to be having the fair at the library, co-sponsoring with the library. And for those of you who are not aware, the Butler Kinnelon branch of Rotary Club has, they kind of went defunct, so we are now represented by Paquonic Valley Rotary Club, of which I've been a member since 2005, a wonderful group, and I'm so proud and happy that they are also co-sponsoring this green challenge to our town, which I think is going to be very exciting. So thank you for listening, and I really hope you will read the report, and I will be sure to make sure that you all get such a report within a week, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening? Good evening.
Mason Ford, 19 Trail West, Kinnelon. First off, I'd like to thank all of you. I think you're doing a super job around here. I haven't been involved with the council for quite some time on a few issues, but hanging around here the last few weeks, I really appreciate how much work you folks do, how dedicated you are, and the capabilities that you have. I sincerely regret that we were not able to come to a meeting of the minds on the failure of our public water system to work together, but I just wanted to wrap the thing up here and see and explain to you, excuse me, where I'm coming from now on. I understand that you have now received the material, that very rough tentative drafts, and it's very small because it covers 50 years of professional experience, and it's just a small part of it. With regard to approaching and working with the federal authorities, starting at the state level and working our way down. Actually, now I'm into Washington with the Department of Justice. I understand that the council unanimously has decided that no one will sit down and talk to me on the public record that I thought we had agreed to, so that we cannot have the meeting that I was looking for to get on the record, to get a good faith discussion going.
What do you mean by public record?
I mean, I need a recording. I want to have a recording to go forward to show that we've sat down and we've talked about this in good faith. I've laid everything out for you, and you've raised your objections. Something, you know, that I can catch hold of later on. So I don't have to go through this again with the U.S. Attorney and all that nonsense. You know, we either agree or we disagree, and then I know where to go from there.
I mean, Mark, is that a problem for us to, I don't remember ever discussing it, but is that a problem?
I'm not talking about an interrogatory or anything like that. I mean, you don't even have to say anything.
I saw your note today, and I don't remember talking about not allowing you to talk to us, but then I remember we did talk about recording it. We weren't sure because we're not in a quorum and we can't represent the council because we're not in a quorum, and that's where we all said we didn't want to meet if it was recorded. But now I'll ask our attorney if it's okay to be recorded. I mean, Mark, thoughts?
Well, again, generally you record public sessions of meetings.
Correct.
That would require a quorum. We would need a quorum. It sounds to me, though, like you'd like something of record. Is that the essence of it?
No,
It has to be on tape? Is that...
What I want is I want this mayor and council to understand everything that's happened to me as a professional over this long period of time with regard to the public waters of this community in two directions. And it's a very complicated issue because it got involved in the courts, it got involved with the regulatory authorities, and it started here. And I think that one thing that's more important than anything else is that this council has to recognize that you are regulatory authority. You are the final regulatory authority in the chain stretching down from Trenton with regard to all of these issues. You have home rule regulatory authority. You should be telling Butler what to do, not letting Butler tell you what to do. That's my concern. And as far as the law is concerned, and riparian law, there's holes in it. It's terrible. I mean, you can't go around and tell the Basin Lakes Association that they own water. I mean, it's insane. They don't own water. They can't even spell it, fortunately. So that's the kind of thing I want to get across as a lesson learned, if nothing else. Whether I get anywhere with this or not, it doesn't really make an awful lot of difference. I mean, I'm not going to be around here much longer anyway, especially with the weather you got up here.
Well, Mark, now that he's submitted his emails to us, is that...
Yeah, those are, of course, operable public documents. So
right.
Well, I've already done enough of that. Actually, the rest of it goes farther into what's going on with the DEP. I'd hate to say what my interpretation of those letters are publicly, but you know, and the important fact here is that you are sitting in the middle of the heartbeat of the entire public water structure of the Passaic River watershed. The DEP is sitting around here and making deals, like with North Jersey District Water Supply, that they're not going to let the Corps of Engineers or the EPA look at their water structure. And you folks are sitting in the middle of this. You got Newark here, you got North Jersey Water District down there, and you got Boone, and they're all fed from right up the street here. Everything comes from here. The Stony Brook watershed started the whole thing. And the simple fact is, the DEP has come in here, and you have wasted over $10 million on supposedly making the water quality better around here and mitigating flooding. And your water company has failed, and you created a flood situation that has made a new floodplain out of the town of Denville and washed away half of 287. That came right out of here. And you just stood there and watched that water coming out of South Lake and West Lake. It was insane, that design. I mean, it is incompetent. And the sad part of it is, I don't know what the EPA and Corps is doing. They know this. They know this. They're trying to get a bill through that will allow them to come in here and work with these communities rather than have the DEP tell them what to do. I don't know why they're doing that. They already have the authority. That's why I want to get to the Department of Justice and the legal people. I mean, they really control it. You hate to see the feds come in and mess with the state, but if the state has blown it, it's time. So that's the whole. It's a complicated issue, and but it's not complicated as far as you guys are concerned. I'm not asking anybody to to take a stand or to say anything one way or the other. Just listen, and if you've got any comments, good or bad, then I know about it, and I can move on from there. Hopefully, at the end, you will agree to try to coordinate with the surrounding 7 or 8 communities and form some sort of communication with the federal environmental authorities, hopefully. If not, that's a separate issue. That would be my ideal goal here. I think you can be the leaders in that and start coordinating with everybody else. I know more about it than they do, I guarantee you. I've been at this, I used to swim in the Pacific River when I was about 10 years old. And I worked my way up the ladder many different ways from that. And, I know those guys down there. They don't even know what's going on up here. They have no idea what's going on up here. This is a completely different environmental situation, climate and everything else. I mean, you see things like they have a gigantic report saying that the Rockaway River contributes something like 3% to the flooding down around Fairfield, and they're spouting that to the Fairfield. That's insane. I mean, it's a documented fact that's an enormous watershed. It starts here, Split Rock Reservoir. That's the headwater of the Boonton Reservoir, and it can be diverted in two directions, in Kinnelon and Rockaway. That water can go either way. It can go down into Charlottenburg, or it can go over, of course, into Rockaway, depending on the conditions. It can be lowered or raised as necessary. These are the kinds of things that they're not even doing. The Corps of Engineers has outlawed batter boards. Batter boards have been used by engineers who never went to school for hundreds of years. That's the way you control floods. You got a dam over in Lake Reality that uses batter boards. That's their problem with it. The thing with batter boards is you have to control them properly. So that's why it needs an overall plan and overall control. But it's a sad technical situation, financial situation. Enough said, I think. So I've got this stuff here. I'm going to continue to put it together, and I'm going to throw it out to the Corps and hold some meetings with those folks, and I'm at your service.
Thank you. Thank you, Mason.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening?
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Jill Agnello, 1 Black Oak Lane. I came here just to listen, and I have to respectfully disagree with the woman about the turf fields, because I think a lot of people come here to this town for a lot of other reasons other than its beautiful nature. I moved here from Manhattan 10 years ago, and I have 2 young kids who play both lacrosse and soccer, and I would love the idea of having lush, green fields. I mean, that would be wonderful, but we don't. The fields behind the municipal building are dangerous. They're not safe for our children. And I did a little research on all the towns that surround us, Denville, Mountain Lakes, and Montville. They all have turf fields. There's a lot of turf fields all around the communities that surround Kinnelon. And unfortunately, we don't have enough fields for our kids to play on. And I have 2 children, and I wouldn't allow my children to play on anything that's going to kill them, obviously. But I would like my kids to not have to schlep all the way to Madison, to Mountain Lakes, to Montville 3 days a week. Their communities have these fields. Pequannock has their new high school fields is all turf. You go to Mountain Lakes, they have gorgeous fields. We don't have that here. I pay a lot of taxes. I'm up for the discussion of turf fields. I would love to know, where we do stand. When is that informational meeting that we can all attend? Because unfortunately, I am a parent of a child at Stony Brook and at Pearl Miller, and I'm in here for the long haul. And we've been talking about this for years. Jim, I've been here for many meetings listening about turf fields, and we are stagnant. We're stagnant, and it would be great to push these things along. All of these communities can't be killing their children. It can't, and I understand there's a lot of medical back and forth, but the way we stand right now, the broken bones from the kids that are going on behind the municipal building, it's not right. So maybe I missed it. I was a little bit late. I apologize. When is this informational meeting?
We did have one scheduled on December 1st, and the speaker at that one had been in a car accident and didn't make it. The weather was bad that night, And he was all right, but, he was in the accident. So, and given the weather in February and March since then, it didn't seem right to bring the public out in the weather that we were having. So I'd said after the weather breaks, I would schedule another meeting, but also not just have one turf manufacturer there, but have two, and then other people from the health industry, so it would be a fair and balanced.
It's not just the turf manufacturers are coming up with all of these, the pros of having a turf field. Every surrounding community has one. Every surrounding community has one. And I'm not saying, look, if you jump off the George Washington Bridge, am I going to follow? No. I'm not suggesting that. But what we're working with here, especially with the kind of winter that we've had, I'm beginning to think that it's going to be until my kids go to college before this gets pushed through. And that's not right. This is a great community. There are a lot of these wonderful lush green lawns that this young lady was speaking about earlier. That would be great. We don't have them here.
Well, the project is moving through. They do have a slated date for putting shovels into the ground to start this project June 1st with a completion of September 1st.
That's great.
It's a matter of getting their permits done, and as I said, the field use agreement in my report, I think needs to be beefed up so that parents know exactly what teams are going to be able to allowed to use that field.
Yeah, no, I know that's a battle as well.
And also that there should be some sort of clause into that field use agreement that states what the borough's recourse is if things happen and change where, for instance, with the track. We were allowed to use the track, we're not allowed to use the track. Same thing with the fitness room. And I think there should be something written into the field use agreement that states what is
the battling of that going to hold? That's not going to hold up groundbreaking.
I don't believe it'll hold that up, but I think it is very important that that become a public document and that everybody know who will and who won't use the field and what our recourse is if we get kicked off because someone else has a tournament there.
And if I can add, that is a real concern. West Milford had 4 fields that they built for $6 million, and then the rec department got pushed out. The schools maintained it, and now they're going back to the voters.
But I thought that was half the problem of why we didn't turf the high school field, was that we weren't, the rec department wasn't going to get, it was going to get, you can practice between, 9 and 11 p.m. 9 and 11 p.m. you can get on that field. I guess the politics that have gone on, and again, I'm not judging, I'm just saying, understandably, there are a lot of I think it will only add. I personally feel, as a family member of this community, that it will add value and attract people to this community, not deter people from coming here. And it just begs the question: so will there be an informational meeting?
Yes, there will.
Did you set a
now
date?
The weather is breaking. Well. After tomorrow's weather.
And how will you get that word out, if you don't mind me asking?
Through all the social media, through email,
that great new sign that's through the marquees. The new sign.
In bright green out there.
Green works for me. That's my question. Is that how you're going to inform people of a informational meeting? Okay. Thank you for your time.
I'm just curious why you think it's stagnated. If in fact the Board of Education has put forth an application to DEP, that statement...
I feel like we've been talking about a turf field for years.
I'll tell you, just...
And I'm not judging, Mayor, I'm not...
We don't operate in a vacuum here. I tell you, we're probably the best informed community in the state of New Jersey, if not in the tri-state region, on this issue. We have listened to both sides, and I think that it's to the credit of the community that we, in fact, have had an open voice here. But once again, I think that we identified a number of years ago the issue really is the number of fields that are available, and that was the problem, and we were trying to find a solution. So at this particular point in time, though, to class it as stagnant is not really, I think...
well, we talked about the Highlands. There was also, what fields, what land was accessible. Like, although, you may not I've been around to the meetings. I've definitely been informed, and it feels, as a resident, it feels as though this process has taken, I'm not going to pull out a very long time.
And it has, and I don't dispute that.
And I'm not blaming the board, I'm not blaming anybody specifically, I'm just trying to understand, as a parent, will my kids get to play on a field before they graduate high school.
And I just don't want to go through the history, but there's this little thing called the Highlands Preservation.
I know, I knew it when I moved here, so I'm well aware.
You know, I know Mr. Ford talked about home rule. You know, when you have people that are down in Washington and down Trenton basically putting handcuffs on situations, you know, it's not an excuse for us, but we have to work within that bureaucratic framework. So
it's a blessing and a curse.
Yep.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Thank you for
Great.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening?
Randall Charles, 69 Green Hill Road. Cliff, I couldn't wait for you to say what you just said. I guess you don't read. December 16, 2013, United States Environmental Protection Agency labeled the 2009 study based on 5 fields, 8 fields, 4 playgrounds, said the news release, the study is outdated. No conclusions are to be drawn by it.
Yeah.
And they subsequently also said and came out, and which has been cited in California, SB 47, and 2 weeks ago, New York State has legislation right now, thank you, Jim, with Senator Parker and Assemblyman Stephen Engelbright. Parker's is Brooklyn. Engelbright is Suffolk County, Long Island. Engelbright is the chairman of the New York Assembly Department of Environment and Conservation, calling for the same thing the EPA has said, that cities, towns have to conduct the health studies. The EPA won't do it, much to the chagrin of CDC. CDC wants these studies conducted, and they want to conduct them. But the EPA has ruled, no, the municipalities and the states have to conduct them. So now we have 2 states. New York City has banned any installation of synthetic turf, tire crumb fields since 2009. Largest school district in the country. The second largest school district in the country is Los Angeles. They banned it in 2009. Both states now have legislation pending requiring the studies be conducted and a moratorium on the installation of any more tire, crumb, synthetic fields, playgrounds, and decorative mulch.
You know that San Francisco just put in turf fields?
Pardon me?
San Francisco just put in turf fields?
And they're still being challenged right now. They're not being put in.
Yeah, they are.
They're being challenged.
No, they're not. They're going in as we speak.
And they're being challenged. And what else are they doing in San Francisco? It's really unique. They're taking smaller playgrounds and they're testing alternative fields, be it the coconut, the cork, the sneaker, whatever they are. They're testing it.
Yeah, we're open to all of that.
No, you're not. I can say that.
Whoa.
Here we go. No, you're not, because you
No. We have made no decisions at the what product we're going to use. We haven't even...
I thought we had a good deal, Jim. We were going to, you know, what's his name from Field Turf is coming in.
Doesn't mean that we're using his infill.
Well, it'll be interesting.
Randy,
I really hope you do.
Randy, let me ask you a quick question. If I turn around and say we're going to use corn husk and cork, you're going to be behind my turf field or our turf
I want to see data on it.
Data on what? Corn?
I like how long it's going to last before we got to tear it up again.
Exactly.
You're damn right.
Well, there's another product out there, and I'm meeting with the guy next week, and he claims it's a great product, it's safe and everything else. And
is Carol going to be there or Bob?
I didn't make the appointment with him yet. But
I think you should have other people there. It'd be nice for the council to come back to us.
We'll have
point of interest. Absolutely.
Steve.
I think it's the right thing to do. That's all everybody's asking. Keep an open mind, look at it. But you've got the 2 largest states in the country now moving legislatively.
And did I tell you I reached out to them?
Yeah.
So in June, when that report is due, if it says turf fields cause cancer with the chrome rubber infill, I will not do the project if it causes cancer with children.
Well, I hope that'd be common sense and everybody would agree to it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's as simple as that.
Very simple. But the EPA has ruled the 2009 study is not to be used.
Well, we're going to wait for the results of this study, and that's where we're going to make our...
Unfortunately, I read through the bylaws before I came here this evening. I'm responsible for maintaining decorum at these meetings. So I welcome all the input, and this is the opportunity for the public really to present information to the council for consideration. So I sincerely thank the public and welcome any information, but let's not make this argumentative if we can...
I'm not.
I'm not saying you are.
March 17th.
Yeah. I'm just, once again, I think it's an opportunity for us to, once again, get some additional information.
State of Kentucky, House of Representatives, resolution. Continuing along with the EPA, on a national level, has stopped its recycling of waste tires.
What's the date on that?
March 17th.
What year?
2015.
Okay.
Hot off the press.
Good.
Calling for studies. They want the studies. They're not subsidizing recycled tires.
So without studies, they're... No, sorry.
They want the studies.
Sorry, Mayor.
They want the studies. Where we stand right now, CDC and EPA are in agreement on which chemicals are highly carcinogenic and toxic. Over 30 are found in tires. Take it right off the EPA website. You can go right to the CDC. Give them to you. I got them if you want them.
I read that.
They're in tires. And most of the levels, including benzene, decadium, lead's still there, unfortunately. More importantly, carbon black, which is 20 to 30% of every tire, which is the dust you see fly up as the beads degrade. It's there. And you're right, there hasn't been any pulmonary studies.
No, there have been. Pulmonary studies showing there was no infiltration.
That's not accurate.
I'll bring the studies next meeting.
Bring them in, because I have them.
Okay.
I have them.
I got about a half a dozen of them.
Same here. I got them all, too. Matter of fact, I talked to them.
No, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I'll bring them in. We can discuss it next month.
Absolutely. But to sit there and say, the EPA has already backtracked. They killed the waste tire program nationally. They said the studies need to be done. There are no studies.
All I said is, did you read the EPA report? You might want to read it.
I have it right here. I have it. I read it.
Okay.
Point of information for the record, Town of Livingston voted on Tuesday night. The recommendation was accepted, the Environmental Commission's recommendation. They're moving to explore natural grass and coconut in Livingston.
Natural grass and coconut?
They're having, yes, they're exploring it right now.
Well, they have a turf field.
Yes. And they're looking to make some replacement because St. Barnabas gave them $600,000. Very nice.
Hey, you think they give us some?
Chilton? Wishful thinking on that part.
It's the first time you made me smile in a while.
Well, there's no reason why we're not smiling, because the kids' health comes first, and that affects the water. It's all linked. We need absolutely right. We need more fields. One field is not going to solve the problem with 900 kids between soccer, lacrosse, and football. It's not. One field shared over there. West Milford wrote the book on it. They're having a heart attack up there. They can't get on their own field, and they paid for it. Now they want to come back and do another one. You want to do that? I don't think so.
That's one town.
It can happen.
It could.
Now, my final point, this is the mark.
Don't engage.
2010, the state of California sued all the artificial turf manufacturers, and they had to come in and they had to remediate all the fields they had installed. Worst case scenario, we put in a turf field with rubber, and the feds come out, or the state comes out and says you got to yank it out. Do we have insurance coverage for that? Has there ever been insurance coverage for something? That's just a question. And it's something we may want to think about on the liability issue. God forbid something happens. Because once they dig it up, God forbid, they dig that up, it's going to be one big hole over there. For how long? It's going to be horrible. None of us want that. None of us. Worst case scenario, what do we do? And I think we're looking at new history. I don't think it's ever been done on a local level. It's a point. I think it's a good point. We cover all our bases. It's important. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Randall, thank you so much. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard on any other issues this evening? If not, I will ask that we basically close the meeting to the public, and I'm going to ask that the council allow discussion on new business as the next order of business, if that's okay, because Mr. Beinfeld is on the clock.
Two of them.
So I just want to make sure that, we're watching dollars here. If you gentlemen would please just step forward again to the microphone, because I do have one question for you, and this is a number question. I don't know, Lou, if you had a chance to review, or Bob, you had a chance to review the resolution for $12,231,000?
Yes.
Okay, I just did a rough calculation. I shouldn't say that. I did it twice. We're pulling out the last two items on this resolution, and if I read this correctly, and I assume those are the ones we're pulling out, one is a bond for $1,773,000, a bond ordinance appropriating $1,955,000, authorizing issuance of $1,737,000 for purposes to be undertaken, Borough of Kinnelon, which is adopted on
Yes.
November. That one comes out?
Yes, my understanding is that number 2-14, Mayor, would come out, and number 1-13, which was, the number is here was $1,393,850.
Well, that's where I end up with $9,100,150.
Yeah, but we don't bond $150.
Okay. Well, I just want to be clear, but should the resolution speak to the exact dollar amount, or in fact, are we covered by just issuance of that 150 just as a tail?
Is it the 850? It's one...
Those are the two. I'm $150 off, okay?
Yeah.
I want to know if it's going to be in the resolution, not whether or not we're going to bond for it.
We will not, it'll be the exact amount.
Not $9,100,000.
Yes.
And the 150?
You'll pay off some of it.
We'll have to find that somewhere
Okay.
else.
Open up your wallets, guys. We're going to make this work, okay? Okay.
No, I
want to make sure that the items that we're pulling out were the right ones that we identified. So
Yes.
if you look at that resolution, it is those two items that, Mr. Beinfeld and Mr. May have identified. Okay. I bring it back to the dais for any discussion on this resolution that ultimately will enable refinancing of bonds totaling $9,100,000. And we are looking for a term of 15 years.
I
I think we upped it a little.
I think it's
18
It'll 18.
The amortization.
17.
Yes.
17?
The amortization on the $9,000,001 would be 17 years to 2032.
And we understand that the $9,100,000 is bank qualified as well. And we just want to read that into the record.
Correct.
So, once again, any discussion or questions for our professionals?
It's actually it's the 450 and the 9.1 that makes it bank qualified.
Okay.
As long as you stay under $10 million, because they combine all your issues, you have to stay, your total issue has to stay under 10.
Okay, so we're taking two resolutions under consideration, and the first is for $9,100,000, and the second is for $458,000.
Right. Yes, there will be a third resolution. There is one for exactly those two, and then there's a broader resolution that, once they're all together, would do some other things as well. So there would be three in total.
Three resolutions. The change is going from $12,331,000 down to $9,100,000, with the exception of those
Plus
two
the water.
bonds, but plus water. Well, the water's in the third one, I think.
Yeah, and the total debt at the end of the day is the 9,1 and the 400 and some thousand.
Right, but it's three separate resolutions.
Yes, right.
Okay?
And the aggregate total, Mayor, should be, if I've done this right, $9,558,000 even, when you add the water as well as the generals, which keeps you under the $10 million, which has advantages to the borough in the pricing.
I listen, I appreciate that. I get nervous when lawyers work with numbers, but with your case, I'll make an exception, and you have a support mechanism next to you. Okay. Any questions on these three resolutions, because they are tied together? If not, I will ask for a resolution to approve the issuance of a single general bond aggregating $9,100,000 as set forth in the first resolution that is incorporated into your binder this evening. So we'll take these separately. So someone move that, please.
So moved.
Your second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Here. No, yes. So we're starting over again.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cabell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
Councilman Giantonio?
Yes.
Thank you. Second resolution for consideration is providing for the combination of certain issuance of bonds in the Borough of Kinnelon in the County of Morris, New Jersey, into a single issue of water bonds aggregating $458,000 in principal amount. Someone offer that, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Cobell, and I have a second by Mr. Barish. Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barish?
Yes.
Councilman Cabell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio?
Yes.
Third resolution for consideration is a resolution determining the form and other details of $9,100,000 in general bonds of 2015 and $458,000 water bonds of 2015 of the Borough of Kinnelon in the County of Morris, New Jersey, providing for their sale. And the following resolution is incorporated into the material that was distributed to you this evening. Someone offer that, please.
So moved.
Your second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cabell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio?
Yes.
Ms. Beinfeld, Mr. May, thank you so much for your assistance, and look forward to a successful sale.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council.
Thank you.
Bob, just before you run, we're going to amend the resolutions that were incorporated into our handouts this evening. I'd like you to take a look at it just to make sure that the form is correct before we sign off on it, okay?
100%. We will be working on that, and we can do that and forward them to you tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we'll have that done in the morning.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, and we have one item that is not...
Phyllis.
You're eager? Well, I've already closed the meeting to the public, so at this point in time, seriously, you know...
You really emailed me.
Okay.
I will. I promise. I will. Thank you.
So we have consent items on the agenda A through O, and then we do have another resolution for consideration that I'm going to ask council to basically word, and that was part of Councilman Barish's report tonight. So any comments or discussion on items A through O? I just have one, and it really is regarding the proclamation of Natural Autism Awareness Month. This is such a staggering problem for so many people in the... autism has turned out to be such a staggering problem throughout the state and country, and for any of those of us that have any personal interaction with parents and or children that are currently affected by autism, it is such an emotional issue on so many different levels. I may not have told you in the past, my nephew is severely autistic, and I can attest to the fact that it is in fact a crisis, and I'm hoping that they find some resolution. But for those parents and families that are currently dealing with autism, we wish them our best in dealing with a very difficult subject. So if there are no other comments about consent agenda, I will ask for a motion to approve
I'll make that
consent
motion.
agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Counselor, I would ask you that you please...
Just by way of a little background, Adam has been trying to reach me today in order to add a resolution to the agenda or to discuss whether it is permitted. Unfortunately, we were unable to hook up today. The resolution which he proposes is in fact absolutely permitted and should be delayed by my inability to return his call today. The resolution would be to purchase the various items that can be purchased through...
Purchase lease? Just, I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there was some discussion at the work session about leasing versus purchasing, and I don't know if Steve has any input on...
We can get the terms and run the numbers out and see which is,
What I was
Can we-
intended with was purchase under the state contract.
Okay.
If it's something different than that, I would need guidance on that.
So if it's leased, you can't do a state contract?
Well, again, we don't have the numbers. We don't know what that would be.
Okay, so the resolution reads to a purchase as opposed to a lease.
Well, let's word it in the alternative, assuming it's within the bid threshold.
Okay.
I'm sorry, assuming it's from the state contract, which means we're free from the bid threshold.
Right.
Let's word it in the alternative so that this entire thing is not delayed another 2 or 3 weeks.
Great.
So I prefer to do it that way if that's okay with everyone. So the resolution would be, again, to purchase or lease the hardware which is necessary for our computer upgrades from the state
Contract?
under the state contract. That will require a specific contract number, which I'm sure we'll get tomorrow to be placed into
That's one of the emails that you have.
And that Karen will conform up an actual resolution tomorrow morning. But the essence of it is to purchase or lease the hardware necessary for our computer upgrades, for municipal work and the police department work under the terms of the state contract. And the reason I'm comfortable with that is, of course, you're getting, under the state contract, you're getting the best price you could get. There really is no other thing you have to do.
And just a comment before we take action on the resolution as outlined by Borough's attorney. We have had a third-party computer support company identify that our hardware needs are emergent at this particular point in time. We are at risk for basically compromising the operation of the borough unless we move forward in an expedited manner. So that's why it wasn't incorporated into the agenda this evening. But we, once again, I think, understand that we have had problems with our emails and the ability to receive and communicate with the public as well as with other elected officials. And once again, we are at a precipice as far as making a decision here on moving forward. Any other comments from the dais?
No, we've spent a lot of time in the borough in the last couple of weeks, and it has progressively gotten worse, where our computers are constantly down. The police department, as we all know, has to have certain, things on their computer that make for security and stuff like that, and we're getting nervously close to not having what we need to have in place to secure that. So, I've just seen it. It's bad, and I don't think we have any other options.
I also want to add that it's affecting the phone system as well. Some people have seen the Nixle or out front that the library phones have gone down. We've had voicemails disappearing here. Emails are either not being sent or not being received. And, it is emergent at this point.
I would have to agree.
Boil your water, that's all we got to say. That was our hardware going down, was boil your water.
If there are no other comments, I'll ask for a motion to approve the purchase of the computer equipment as outlined with Councilor's input on the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
There's a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cavell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman D'Antonio?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. We have payment of bills, which I apparently don't want to do this evening, but we'll get back to. Any questions or comments on the bills list that was distributed last week and is included in your packet? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the payment of the bills as outlined.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
Or I'll second. Whichever way.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cavell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman D'Antonio?
Yes.
Thank you. Old business this evening is the public hearing and adoption of Ordinance 3-15, an ordinance to amend Chapter 62 of the Code of the Borough of Kinnelon, New Jersey, entitled Road Department. And we talked about the fact that this ordinance established is parity between the management and the maintainers. It addresses health and life benefits. The administrative officers of the Department of Public Works, namely superintendent, the foreman, and the working foreman, shall receive the same health and life benefits as set forth in the collective bargaining agreement for the rank and file. This ordinance was introduced last month at our meeting held on February 19, 2015. The proper notice was published as required by law. A copy was posted on the municipal building bulletin board, and additional copies were made available to the public. The meeting is now open to anyone who would like to speak to Ordinance 3-15 from the public. Hearing none, I'll close the meeting to the public. I will now bring it back to the dais. Does anyone from the council wish to speak at this time to Ordinance 3-15? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt Ordinance 3-15.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cavell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
Councilman D'Antonio?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll ask the acting clerk to please read the tax collector's report and investment report.
Excuse me, we have to do introduction of ordinance 415.
Okay?
We need this motion.
Do the report first. I'll get that. Okay.
Okay. Tax Collector's Report. During the month of February 2015, the Tax Collector's Office processed a total of $8,508,464.50. Investment Officer's Report. A total of $711.94 was earned in interest for the month of December 2015.
I'll ask the clerk to read that report as filed. I skipped past ordinance, the introduction of Ordinance 4-15. This is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of real estate property by the Borough of Kinnelon from Totowa Constructors, Inc., known as Lot 1, Block 89, pursuant to New Jersey Annotated 40A:12-3 et sec. Does anyone from the council wish to discuss this ordinance? Is it the new one?
Those are the ones I have from the resolution we did. I didn't know there were, I guess, yes, when we did our
we'll
new
change
maps.
it to the new
number. I have no objection introduced tonight. We can change the numbers.
Okay, we will introduce this evening with the consideration that we will verify the lot and block number to make sure it's consistent with the new tax maps. Thank you, Mayor. Does anyone from council wish to discuss this ordinance? I just want to, before we take action, I want to thank Councilwoman Senti for being a Scot. I don't know how to say this. This has been an interesting journey here with this particular piece of property, but I think that it helps us preserve our planning incentive grants, which may in fact have application for other uses for active recreation in the near term and passive potentially. So that's my comment. If there's no other comments, I'll ask for someone to please make a motion to introduce.
I'd like to make that motion.
Your second.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barris?
Yes.
Councilman Cobell?
Yes.
Councilman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, if I read the agenda correctly, is the district school payment of $2,855,395.50. Would someone please offer that?
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Barris?
Yes.
Councilman Cobell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio.
Yes.
Thank you. Tonight we have a resignation. This is Anissa Manero from the Historical Committee and Open Space Advisory Committee Recording Secretary position. Anissa still is a part-time employee within the borough, but she is resigning as secretary for those two boards. Someone offer that, please.
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Unfortunately, and I say that unfortunately to the public, we have to go into closed session, and I'm going to ask our attorney to phrase that reason.
Members of the council, Mayor, members of the council, I would suggest that a resolution be adopted going into closed session based upon the personnel exemptions of the Open Public Meetings Act, that being for the purposes of discussing the CMFO position and potentially fulfilling that position. I would also suggest that our checklist, when we go into closed, include a portion, because we'll be discussing contracts and perhaps even collective bargaining. I thought I heard Cliff mention that we might be discussing
Very briefly.
a very brief report on that. We will be in closed session for approximately 10 minutes, and when we emerge, we'll go back into open, and action may or may not be taken.
Great. Someone offer that, please.
I'll offer that.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor going to close?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Hey, Mayor. Mayor, would you mind closing the door? Okay? Thank you.
What's your hurry? Here's your hat.
You on the other side.
Sit again.
Okay. Any other business come before the mayor and council this evening? If not, I will ask for, I'm just going to double check the agenda because I've not done well with that this evening. If there's no other business, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Say we instead of...